And the Lord said to Samuel, How long are you grieving over Saul? And it is I that have set him at naught, not to be king over Israel. Fill your horn with oil, and come, let me send you to Jesse, as far as to Bethlehem. For I have observed among his sons one to be king for me. And Samuel said, How am I to go? Saul will both hear and kill me. And the Lord said, Take a heifer of the oxen in your hand, and you will say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. And you shall invite Jesse to the sacrifice. And I will show you what you shall do, and you shall anoint whomever I say to you. And Samuel did all that the Lord spoke to him, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the city were surprised at meeting him, and said, Is your entering peace, you seer? And he said, Peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and be glad with me today. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and invited them to the sacrifice. And it happened, when they entered, and he looked on Eliab, that he said, To be sure, before the Lord is his anointed. And the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look on his appearance, or on the posture of his size, because I have rejected him. For God will not look as a mortal will see. For a mortal will see into a face, but God will see into a heart. And Jesse called Aminadab, and he passed before Samuel. And he said, Neither has the Lord chosen this one. And Jesse brought forward Shammah. And he said, Also for this one the Lord has not chosen. And Jesse brought his 7 sons forward before Samuel. And Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen among these. And Samuel said to Jesse, Have the boys come to an end? And he said, There is yet the smallest. Behold, he is shepherding among the flock. And Samuel said to Jesse, Send and fetch him, for we will definitely not recline until he comes. And he sent and brought him in. And this one was ruddy with beauty of eyes, and was good in appearance to the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Rise and anoint David, for this one is good. And Samuel took the horn of oil, and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And a spirit of the Lord sprang upon David from that day and onward. And Samuel rose and returned to Hamathaiim. And a spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him. And Saul's servants said to him, See now, an evil spirit from the Lord is tormenting you. Let now your slaves speak before you, and let them seek for our Lord a man who has learned how to play on the kinara. And it will be, when an evil spirit is upon you, that he will play on his kinara, and it will be good for you, and it will give you respite. And Saul said to his servants, Do look out for me for a man who plays well, and bring him to me. And one of his lads answered and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse a Bethlehemite, and he knows how to play music, and the man is intelligent, and the man is a warrior and prudent with words, and a man good in appearance, and the Lord is with him. And Saul sent messengers to Jesse, saying, Send me your son David, who is with your flock. And Jesse took a gomer of bread, and a skin of wine, and 1 kid of the goats, and sent them by the hand of his son David to Saul. And David came in to Saul and stood before him. And Saul loved him greatly, and he became to him one that would bear his armor. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Do let David stand before me, for he has found favor in my eyes. And it happened, when an evil spirit came upon Saul, that David would take the senira, and play it with his hand, and Saul would be relieved, and it was good for him, and the evil spirit would depart from him. And the Aliphiles gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Sokoth of Judea. And they encamped between Sokoth and Azekah, in Ephraim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley. They formed ranks for battle opposite the Aliphiles. And the Aliphiles stood on the mountain here, and Israel stood on the mountain there, and the valley was between them. And a mighty man came out from the ranks of the Aliphiles. Goliath was his name, from Gath. His height was 4 cubits in a span, and he had a helmet on his head, and he was armed with a coat of chainmail, and the weight of his coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze and iron. And there were bronze greaves on his legs, and a bronze shield between his shoulders. And the shaft of his spear was like the beam of weavers, and his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron. and the one who carried his armor would go before him. And he stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel and said to them, Why do you come out to draw up for battle opposite us? Am I not an Alaphile, and are you not Hebrews of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. And if he is able to fight against me, and if he strike me, then we will be to you for slaves. But if I am able and kill him, then you shall be to us for slaves, and be subject to us. And the Alaphile said, Behold, today on this very day I have chided the ranks of Israel. Give me a man, and we both will fight in single combat. And Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Alaphile, and they were dismayed and greatly afraid. And David said to Saul, On no account let the heart of my lord collapse upon him. Your slave will go and will fight with this Alaphile. And Saul said to David, You will definitely not be able to go against the Alaphile to fight with him, for you are a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth. And David said to Saul, Your slave was tending the flock for his father, and when the lion and the bear would come and take a sheep from the herd, and I would go after it, then I struck it and pulled from its mouth, and if it turned against me, then I caught it by its throat and struck it down and put it to death. And your slave would smite both the bear and the lion, and the uncircumcised Alaphile shall be like one of these. Shall I not go and smite him, and take away today a reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised one, who reproached the ranks of the living God? The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion, and from the paw of the bear, he himself will rescue me from the hand of this uncircumcised Alaphile. And Saul said to David, Go, and the Lord will be with you. And Saul put a woolen cloak on David, and a bronze helmet around his head, and he girded David with his sword over his woolen cloak. And he grew tired walking once and twice. And David said to Saul, I shall definitely not be able to go in these, for I am not experienced. And they removed them from him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the wadi, and put them in his shepherd's bag, which he had with him for collecting, and his sling in his hand, and he advanced against the man, the Alaphile. And Goliath saw David, and he disdained him, for he was a boy, and he was ruddy with beauty of eyes. And the Alaphile said to David, Am I like a dog, that you come upon me with a rod and stones? And David said, No, but worse than a dog. And the Alaphile cursed David by his gods. And the Alaphile said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air, and to the animals of the earth. And David said to the Alaphile, You come to me with sword and with spear and with shield, and I am coming to you in the name of the Lord Sabaoth, the God of the ranks of Israel, which you have reproached today. And today the Lord will shut you up into my hand, and I will kill you and remove your head from you. And I will give your limbs and the limbs of the camp of the Alaphiles on this day, to the birds of the air, and to the wild animals of the earth. And all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly will know that the Lord does not save by sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and the Lord will give you into our hands. And the Alaphile arose and came to meet David. And David stretched out his hand into the bag and took out from there 1 stone, and slung it and struck the Alaphile on his forehead. And the stone penetrated through the helmet, into his forehead, and he fell on his face on the ground. And David ran and stood over him, and took his sword, and put him to death, and cut off his head. And the Alaphiles saw that their mighty one was dead, and they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah rose up, and shouted and pursued after them, as far as the entrance to Gath, and as far as the gate of Ashkelon. And the wounded of the Alaphiles fell on the way of the gates, even as far as Gath, and as far as Acharon. And the men of Israel came back from turning aside after the Alaphiles, and they trampled their camps. And David took the head of the Alaphile, and brought it into Jerusalem, and he put his armor in his covert.